Good afternoon. The Committee on Water and Land is on its hearing notice, the amended hearing notice of Friday, January 29th, 2021 at 1 o'clock. Members, good afternoon. Good to seeing you here. Let me introduce, for those of you at Zoom land, aloha. Today's hearing is myself, Lorraine Inoue, as chair of the Committee of Water Land, and we have members, Senator Mitsulupcha, and we have Senator Revere and Senator Favela here, and we may have Senator Agaran, who's on his way to Maui on his home island, will be joining us shortly. I'd like to, at this time, some housekeeping announcements for all of you. This meeting, including the audio and the video of remote participants, is being streamed live on YouTube. You will find links to viewing options for all Senate meetings on the live and on-demand video page of the legislature's website. This Zoom meeting and YouTube live stream event includes the following agenda: the 1 p.m. hearing for the Committee on Water Land, as I mentioned. In the unlikely event that we have to abruptly end this hearing due to major technical difficulties, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, February 3rd. A public notice will be posted on the legislature's website. And for the people participating remotely, all testifier audio will be muted and video disabled until shortly before it is your turn to testify. Note the time limit that this committee is allowing per testifier is 2 minutes. I'll continue to say some other housekeeping measures that the committee will present today. I'll be reading a list of the people who submitted written testimony for each measure. We apologize if the closed captioning doesn't accurately transcribe the names. If you're interested in reviewing the written testimony, please go to the legislature's website, and you will find a link on the status page for the measure. In the event as well, if there are temporary technical glitches during your turn to testify, we may have to move on to the next person due to the time constraints. And we appreciate your understanding and remind you that the committee has your written testimony. We are ready, members, to go on to our agenda items. First on the agenda, SB 137, and this is relating to county land use decision-making authorities to amend district boundaries involving land areas greater than 15 acres, except non-important agriculture land or rural land areas greater than 15 acres, but not more than 25 acres if the land areas are proposed for reclassification to the urban district, and at least 60% of the land areas will be dedicated for the development of affordable housing. Chair at this time would like to call on Daniel Orendecker, and testifying for the Land Use Commission, and he has agreed to be presenting his testimony as well. Good afternoon, Dad. Aloha.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to testify on this measure. At the outset, we'd like to point out that we don't believe that this measure will actually result in any significant increase in the number of affordable homes being built in the state. Between 2000 and the present, on Oahu alone, there's a neighborhood of 22,000 homes that have been approved but have not been built or have not begun development. Should this measure move forward, however, we are concerned that the bill does not contain a definition of affordable housing nor does it define what 60% of the land area or square footage of development would encompass. I think you noticed from our testimony that there's an internal inconsistency in the bill between those two phrases. The way the bill is currently drafted, a significantly higher percentage could be required if 60% means square area, if roadways and things like that are not included. So that needs to be straightened out if the measure is going to move forward. The definition of affordable is also key. 140% of median has proven, in our experience, not to be actually affordable by most people in the community. We're not sure what the purpose of this measure is also. There's no statistical evidence to indicate that there are 25-acre parcels that have not been developed. We have seen instances where developers have tried to break up larger parcels into smaller ones to avoid the Land Use Commission. But this bill would specifically prevent that anyway. So I'm really not sure if there's any real need for this measure. The rest of my testimony has been submitted, and I would appreciate any questions that you may have, and we'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Dan. Chairs will we'll offer comments from the committee members as well. But I have a question for you. Looking at your testimony and hearing you as well, you talk about primarily more of the development on Oahu. Can you tell us on a smaller scale the effect for the neighbor islands as well? Because, we have the neighbor islands who has, let's say there are developers that are 50 acres and they want just a portion and able to develop affordable housing up to 50, if this bill passes, 25 acres, and pretty much rural. Any comments to that?
Well,
because it seems like you're talking about large developments here on Oahu.
No, actually, in actuality, Chair, we were talking about developments on all the islands, in particular the neighbor islands. The statistic that I gave was Oahu Oahu focused because that's the only island that we have done the analysis on so far. Okay. And we are in the process of doing analysis on the neighbor islands. It's actually on the neighbor islands that we see the larger problem with developers trying to end run environmental laws and things like that by chopping up acreage to 15-acre parcels so that they don't have to go to the Land Use Commission. We have not seen any developers come forward in the past, at least in the past 10 years, with parcels that appear to be smaller than 25 acres for redevelopment. And our data does not indicate that on any island there is a large number of parcels that would fall into this umbrella of 25 acres.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Chair will recognize any members if you have any questions. No? Okay, thank you, Dan. We'll proceed with the second testifier as well, Phyllis Shimabukuro Geyser, testifying for the Hawai'i Department of Agriculture. Welcome, Phyllis.
Aloha, Chairperson and members of the committee. The Department of Agriculture stands on its written testimony, offering comments and a recommendation. Available to answer any questions.
Okay, you have time, Phil. Can you, for the committee's sake, it's short, but can you read your recommendations, please, for the record, so others that are viewing would like to hear your recommendations as well, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. This measure establishes affordable housing as a priority activity for consideration within the state land use law. The department offers the following amendment to forestall unanticipated erosion of the prime agricultural land base by otherwise well-intentioned legislation. On page 2, lines 10 through 19, the new language is bold type text and bold underline. Number 2, land area greater than 15 acres but not more than 25 acres if the land areas are proposed for reclassification to the urban district are contiguous to the urban district and at least 60% of the square footage of the development will be dedicated for the development of affordable housing. Department of Agriculture requests to also add, provided the soil is classified by the Land Study Bureau's detailed land classification as overall master productivity rating class C as in Charlie or lesser. And for number 3, lands less than 15 acres in the agricultural district that are not designated as important agricultural lands, the department offers amendment to add, or with soil classified by the Land Study Bureau's detailed land classification as overall master productivity rating class A or B. So those are our recommended amendments.
Thank you, Phyllis. Members, any question of the director? Okay. Seeing none, Phil, thank you very much, and we'll take your recommendations under advisement. Next up, we'd like to hear from Office of Planning. Office of Planning, are you there?
Hi, Rodney Funakoshi from the State Office of Planning. We'll start on our written testimony offering comments or supporting the intent of the measure. Thank you very much.
Okay. Members, any questions of Office of Planning? Thank you very much. We'll then proceed with Arabelle Camblor, and she's testifying for Hawai'i Realtors. Welcome, Arabelle. Good to see you.
You too. Aloha, Chair Inouye and members of the committee. So I am Arabelle Camblor. Am I muted? Sorry. I'm Arabelle Camblor, member of the Government Affairs Committee, testifying on behalf of the Hawaii Association of Realtors, the voice of real estate in Hawaii, and its over 10,000 members. We are strongly in support of Senate Bill 137. And as you know, the state's been struggling with the issue of affordable housing for over the decades. And the challenges range from land and infrastructure costs, the financing and the regulatory challenges, as well as permitting. And according to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, the state's going to need up to 46,000 housing units by the year 2030. So we do have a housing supply problem, and this measure is a creative approach to address those challenges by building houses at all price points, including encouraging affordable housing. What HAR is asking, though, is for your consideration that the acreage be increased from 25 acres to 100 acres. And this would allow more housing units to be built to help the state meet those housing demands. Additionally, more acreage makes it more economically feasible for the environmental safeguards to be built, such as the wastewater treatment plants or connection to an existing sewer system. And those smaller projects just may not be able to absorb those costs. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Arabelle. Hey, you done good. You're within the 2 minutes. Appreciate that. Members, any questions? Senator Favela has a question.
Yeah, I guess kind of hearing all of this, I guess we're talking about looking at all the lands of and boundaries to be redistricted. My thing is this: if this is considered to be ag land and agricultural and going forward, so why are we not building homes and affordable homes or homes that we could do with people that wants to farm the land? We get plenty of guys out there that can't afford farmland and homes on their farmland, and is restricting them to do agriculture. And if our governor wants to produce double or triple our food rate by us going and rezoning these boundaries and building homes and more homes, and then you're talking about redoing infrastructures like sewer systems, but the roads and all of this is all combined. I mean, right now, that's how we're reevaluating Endeavor Beach, because we're building homes that is going to be affordable. We need those homes, yes, we do. But what about the traffic? What about the congestion? What about the infrastructure? All of that. So you're saying to make it to 100 acres so that they can afford to develop these lands and infrastructures. I just feel that we should be looking and figuring out how we can have people to lease or buy affordable farmland and homes and build and develop vegetables and fruits for our community and our state, instead of building more homes and no food, and all our food gotta come from out of state. I mean, these are the things that is just kind of bothering me, listening that we're willing to sacrifice all of these ag lands to build more homes for our people, but how are we gonna have people living in homes if they don't have food? That's just my kind of observation. I just kind of just tripping out that we're looking for affordability, but if people cannot live in the homes and we gotta get all our food from outside, how is it gonna be affordable if you buy one watermelon $25? I mean, you know, there's no affordability. So that's just my take on that, sorry.
Okay, Arabelle, you want to respond or to add?
You know, I apologize. I couldn't understand some of the words Senator was saying. And what I might do is just, later,
Okay.
I'll discuss that with our committee, and we'll review the comments on YouTube.
Yeah, so instead of me summing it all up again, bottom line is, why are we not looking in to affordability of farm and agriculture homes, instead of just homes that people are gonna live in, no place to go, no place to shop, there's no food to eat, but we're gonna have affordable homes. But they cannot buy the food because the food is too expensive. That sums it up.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, can I add, though, Arabelle, when the realtors look at this, or even a developer, this doesn't limit, though, looking at the bill, that you're just creating this measure only for homes, where a developer probably could look at the, let's say, a 25-acre parcel, but also do it in an area where you probably would rezone to 1-acre parcels, maybe, or 2 acres. So whereas one who would purchase the properties, is able to use it for agriculture as well as building a home.
Correct.
Because it doesn't limit the development itself, right?
No,
Am I correct? So if you decide to do 12,000 acre parcels for sale, fee simple, but you could, a developer or whoever could do 1-acre parcels or 2, and would this bill suffice? Clear enough that they could, it's not limiting them, right?
right.
Okay.
And it will depend on what the various county decision-making authorities have in mind as far as their planning commissions and their city councils, what the development plan is for that particular area.
Oh, okay, all right. Members, any other questions? Thank you very much. Then we'll continue on to hear more testifiers. I'm sorry, but those that have decided to speak, already we've heard several of them. Chair would like to also at least read out those who sent testimonies on SB 137. We have communication in support from testifying for Maui County came out of the Mayor Victorino's office. We have a position from Henry Curtis testifying for the life of the land. We have an opposition from Ann Frederick testifying for Hawai'i Alliance for Progressive Action. We have opposition from Marty Townsend testifying for Sierra Club. Opposition testifying for the Hawaii Farm Bureau, Brian Miyamoto. We have comments submitted by Joe Kent and testifying for the Grassroots Institute of Hawai'i. In opposition, Jerry Di Pietro, in opposition as an individual. And in support, SB 137 from Taylor Yoshitomi Jones. Members, that's all for SB 137. We'll continue then on to SB 140. Excuse me. And SB 140 is relating to community development, and this is with regards to that it requires HCDA or the Hawaii Community Development Authority to develop a transit-oriented development, or as we know called TOD, zone improvement program to foster community development by strategically investing in public facilities, and it appropriates funds to HCDA for staff necessary to develop and manage the TOD zone improvement program. Chair recognizes that we do have, I'll call on Ian Hirokawa, testifying for DLNR.
Not a problem. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Ian Hirokawa from DLNR Land Division.
Good afternoon.
We'll stand on our testimony in support of the measure, and I'll be available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, let's see if I have a question. Members, any questions of DLNR with regards to TOD? Thank you, Ian, if you'll be around in case we come up with some questions later. Appreciate it. HCDA, Deepak, New Payne. Are you on? Aloha. Aloha, Deepak.
Aloha, Chair, and member of the committee. Chair, my last name is pronounced Pane. HCDA stands on its written testimony, and I can address any questions that members may have.
Okay, thank you, members. Any questions of Mr. Pane? Thank you, Deepak, good to see you. Office of Planning.
Hi, good afternoon, Rodney Funakoshi from the State Office of Planning. OP stands on its written testimony supporting the intent and offering comments. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at it to see if you had some recommendations. No changes to the measure, yeah?
So we had comments that if it moves forward, we would recommend it be considered in a revised measure.
Can you explain again? I'm sorry, I lost you.
We do have comments suggesting, what we feel are how the measure really should be recast. It's sort of being placed within the existing framework of the district, community development districts, and rather than that, we're basically recommending that it be carved out in a separate section. But the provisions are very good, and HCDA has very good authorities to do TOD, so we support that portion of it, just not how the measure is framed.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, members? Okay. Attorney General. Good afternoon. Attorney General's office. Can you hear me?
Hi, Senator Inouye. Kelly Suzuka is not in the Zoom call at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then, members, let's continue on to SB 255 relating to commercial marine licenses. And this provides that a single commercial marine vessel license satisfies the licensure requirements for all persons aboard the licensed vessel, and it requires any person who provides fishing charter services to obtain a commercial marine license. And this is 255. We have testifying for DLNR, Brian Nelson there. Aloha, Brian.
Aloha, Senator Inouye and committee members. Brian Nielsen, Division of Aquatic Resources. We stand on our written testimony in support and also offer some suggested amendments for your consideration, available per questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions, members? Senator Revere.
Aloha, Brian. How are you today?
Aloha, good. Thank you.
Thank you. How do you handle now, and how would you handle it differently should this bill pass? The part about Chapter 189-5, where it says, "It is unlawful for any person who's not lawfully admitted to the United States to engage in taking marine life for commercial purposes in the waters of the state." In other words, anyone fishing within state waters has to be licensed. So you bring people in to work on these boats, and if they're working out in the, outside the state waters, it doesn't matter. But what would this law do to this provision? Is it in conflict?
Yeah, that's a good question. My understanding of the, foreign commercial marine license holders, they're not fishing in state waters, they're fishing in federal waters, but I'm gonna ask my program manager, David Sakota, to see if he could better address your question.
Thank you, David Sakota with Division of Aquatic Resources. This law wouldn't supersede any other law, including the one that prohibits foreign individuals not allowed to enter the U.S. from fishing in state waters. It wouldn't allow them, for instance, to work on a charter vessel that fishes in state waters under this commercial vessel license, because there's a separate statute prohibiting them from commercially fishing in state waters.
So how do you enforce that now? And would that enforcement be altered in any way if this bill passes?
Our DOCA officers enforce as best they can. They do in-water interceptions of fishermen from time to time. I don't think this bill would change any of the way that DOCA does enforcement.
Does it change in any way the poor fishermen that are trapped on their boats in the harbors that aren't allowed to come onto shore? Would this have any implied change to their being stuck on the boat, or is there any side effect in that regard?
No, not at all. I believe that's a federal requirement that they're not allowed to set foot off the boat. This law that would have a vessel license instead of individual licenses wouldn't change that at all.
Is there any statistics on, for these boats that have foreign fishermen, are there any statistics on how much is caught within state waters and how much in outside of state waters, or is it just always outside of state waters?
Yeah, the longline fleet is prohibited from operating, I believe, within 75 miles of the state, so everything is beyond state waters.
So in recent years, or up until now, these fishermen would come in and get licenses, or their captain would come get a license for them because they weren't allowed in to process their paperwork. They weren't fishing in state waters. Why were they bothering to get the licenses in the first place?
Because our commercial marine licenses require anyone who's fishing in or outside of state waters to have a commercial marine license.
So,
the nexus is if they're landing the fish in Hawaii.
Which is what they're doing and will continue to do.
Correct.
So does this have the effect then of just kind of mooting Chapter 189-5? I mean, how would it be enforced, I guess, going, if you don't ever need any licenses, you don't check on who's what, how do you keep track of, who's fishing in state waters?
Again, I mean, this would be the same way of enforcement. So if a dock officer intercepts a vessel, or if the Coast Guard intercepts a longline vessel, regardless of, where they're fishing, they would check to see if everyone on board has a commercial marine license currently. Under this new law, they could check to see if the vessel is licensed, and in that case, the individual crew members wouldn't have to have individual licenses.
And they would still have to identify where the fish was caught?
They would have to identify, well, it would be assumed that the fish would be landed in Hawaii.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
All right, sure. I have a question, David. The longline fishing vessels, the foreign ones we're talking about as well, their boats are identified differently from those that are pretty much Hawaii-owned, residents or fishermen. Am I correct?
Yes, they're required to have a federal Hawaii longline limited entry permit to fish in the longline fishery.
But also, aren't the boats identified somehow differently, though? I mean, you can look, I see those boats down there, and you can tell that they are foreign, if they're docked at the piers, right? But
Yeah.
but there's some
I think
ID, I think, that's different from those that are local fishing boats, charters.
I don't know the exact answer to that.
Okay.
Each vessel has their own unique number. Vessels can either be registered with the state or with the federal government. So, vessels, whether they're longline vessels or other fishing vessels, can have state or federal registration numbers. I don't know if longline permitted vessels have specific, unique identifying numbering on their decks. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Any other questions?
Chair, I have a question.
Okay, Senator Favela and then Senator
So she can
Misalucha.
go first.
Okay, Senator Misalucha.
Aloha. So when I'm reading this, it would appear that administratively, this would be more efficient, right? Have you considered the impact on your, I guess, staffing as far as the fact that there will be less licensing and less work involved, correct?
It depends. There would probably be less individual licenses, but more vessels getting licenses. Right now we don't license vessels. I don't know the exact trade-off, but it would still be work for our staff to do.
I see. Clarify for me something, because I'm reading your testimony about the fact that DLNR would be doing its own rulemaking, particularly, I think, Section F, where there are implications about child support enforcement. Are you with me?
Yes.
So in this particular case, right now, as it stands, it's all individually linked, right, to that person who's a licensee with a group license, who would then be covered under that provision. And if there are members of the, let's say, the fishing vessel who may be, does that impact the entire group?
That's a great question. I think, one of the concerns with how this is written is we would still be unable to issue a commercial marine license to an individual who is not paying child support, but that individual could still legally fish under a vessel license, as long as the vessel has that valid vessel license.
There may be an issue there, so I guess,
Yeah.
I think that needs to be explored further. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, however, just to follow up though, in the comments, in the comments from the agency as well, But it does say, pertaining to the senator's question is, and it ends with that the department shall issue, renew, reinstate, or restore an affected license only upon receipt of authorization from the agency, which is the Child Support Enforcement Agency, the Office of Child Support Hearings, or the Family Court. So it seems like, assuming that one applies for the permit, which if they don't have one, but then it would be a delayed approval, I guess, because then they would have to wait, and for due diligence, the agency would need to follow up and see if everything's cleared, right?
Yes, it's an individual versus group. So this one is by vessel, so that's why I was asking about whether, who would be.
Then it
Yeah.
would be the captain of the ship, right? You know, because in most cases, I think the boat owners would be responsible, because then if one of, as mentioned,
Yeah.
that is a member of the ship, right, the charter or the fishing vessel, then it wouldn't apply because it's one permit for the boat. But, yeah, so in other words, the member of the fishing vessel, not the captain or whoever holds a license, will not be affected. But I think that, to me, I can't see a problem too much of it, because, and we know, if we're talking about trying to survive, and if there's a member who's in abeyance of paying child support, I mean, you know, maybe he's there trying to fish at least, and the captain of the boat or whoever will share the catch. But I agree, though, that if the captain becomes that person that is under investigation, then there's a delay in issuing, because that would be the person responsible. So just a point, you know, of information there. Any other questions? Senator Favela.
Yes, going back to the licensing for the vessel. You know, we're in a technology age. There's not any way that you guys can, each of these vessels, when they apply for their licensing, have a GPS tracking and a GPS reporting. So it'll make it easier on your staff when it's time to report and to keep numbers and checks on these vessels. Because like how what the other previous senators are saying, so now the captain is responsible. I'm gonna have 3 guys in my group that is not paying child support, but then I'm gonna share the bounty with them. But then we're gonna go bypass the family that is suffering, who's not getting paid, and then I'm gonna give those 3 guys their catch and their pay. And there's no accountability of going forward, because we're all friends here. You know what I mean? So if I can't get my license because you guys put this restriction on my child support, I'm gonna go with my brother over here and I'm gonna go on his ship. You see what I'm saying? So if you guys don't have a GPS or some kind of actual data tracking, how are you guys gonna hold any of these guys, like say right now, I was denied, but then now I'm on top of his ship. If you guys don't have no accountability, then the captain that's gonna put me on the ship should not be able to bring me on the ship unless I'm in compliance too. You see what I mean? So if I am denied on license, and then later on I'm on his ship, I shouldn't be there, because then I'm bypassing the whole loophole of why you guys are doing this and try to keep people accountable for the child support. You see what I'm saying? So we should be looking into accountability, not only in monitoring, but the overall in what you guys are trying to achieve here on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Then the chair will proceed with the rest of the communications we received on SB 255. To continue on, we do have, let's see, support from all of the people that I will be calling. And these are all in support. Randy Fernley, testifying for Carl Fish Hawai'i, John Kaneko, testifying for Hawai'i Seafood Council, James Silva, testifying for Wailua Boat Club, Michael Tokunaga, testifying for S. Tokunaga Store, Inc., and I think that's on the Big Island. Brooks Takenaka, testifying for United Fishing Agency, James Scoop, testifying for Pop Fishing and Marine in support, Sean Martin, testifying for Vessel Management Associates, Inc., Eric Kingma, testifying for Hawaii Longline Association, Roy Morioka, testifying for HVAC, and Iwasaki, testifying for ICE Partners, LLC, Sean Tanoe, testifying for Tropic Fish Hawaii, Tropic Fish Maui, Tropic Fish Kauai. All in support as individuals: Brent Chang, Mitchell Mizukami, Ed Watamura, Randy Chung, Troy Ogasawara, Clay Tam, Craig Sevens, William Chang, Shyla Moon, Wayne Miyata, Cortland Pang, Brandon Gu, Lauren Hori, Ronald Tam, Jason Hijirita, Kirk Kawamoto, in opposition, late testifying, Jody Bright testifying for Hawaii Marlin Tournament Series. Members will continue on then to the next bill, which is Bill SB 257, and this authorizes the Board of Land and Natural Resources to extend certain leases of public lands for commercial, industrial, resort, or government use upon approval of a proposed development agreement to make substantial improvements to the existing improvements. We do have testifying for DLNR, Kevin Moore, or a representative of DLNR on SB, 257. DLNR?
Hello, good afternoon, Chair and committee members.
Good afternoon, Kevin.
Kevin Moore with DLNR Land Division. So the department stands on its written testimony in support and offering an amendment to the measure, and we're available for questions. Thank you.
Okay. Kevin, you want to just summarize part of the recommendations for amendment for the information of the committee?
Certainly. So this bill would apply to, would allow for extensions of commercial, industrial, resort, or government use leases. And we're just asking that mixed use be added as another category in that list, and then define mixed use to include any combination of commercial, resort, or multifamily residential.
Oh, okay. Thank you for offering the amendments as well. Members, any questions? Senator Revere.
Thank you, Chair. I was curious about the status of Act 149 from 2018. That was the 10-year trial project for doing something similar to this. Could you give us an update on where that's at?
Sure. I think the Land Board has approved about 3 applications for lease extensions, and they're in various stages. I think one has been completed, a 40-year extension of a lease in the Kanu'ulehua industrial area. And 2 others are in various stages of getting a development agreement drafted and supported with the necessary appraisal backup and things like that. And we know we have additional applicants in the pipeline too.
So in your, at least initially, does it appear to be working, this process that you're using? Modifications that you would suggest, or what would you say?
No, I think it seems to be working. It's, it takes some time to figure out the details of the improvements the lessee is going to make and whether they qualify as substantial enough to justify the extension they're seeking, but it works.
Is it premature to discuss this measure now until we get a few more years into this pilot project to confirm the, veracity of the process?
I know, I saw testimony along those lines from Office of Foreign Affairs, but I think from our perspective, we don't believe so.
Okay, thank you. And is there, just so I can better understand it, is there not a process to kind of reopen a lease? Let's say you go 40 years along, you get a 55-year lease, and you run out of money and financing, and your lease is, horizon's too short. Is there a process to kind of reopen the lease without these kind of extensions? So, early termination and renegotiation. There is no. Would that not be a better process if it doesn't exist?
It wouldn't really work. Actually, a process like that was used for the non-renewal hotel on Banyan Drive. The lessee there voluntarily surrendered its lease, and it went out for public auction. And I think there had to be some legislative enactment to let that process happen. But it was very cumbersome, and actually the lessee who initiated the process was not the successful bidder at auction. So apart from some type of process for a lease extension to the existing lessee, now you mentioned 55-year lease. Under our existing law, a lessee can come in and get an extension up to 65, but beyond that, it would have to go out to public auction.
So I guess what I'm trying to get at is the concern of the opposition that once somebody gets in, then they just can keep doing extensions later on without too much difficulty. And I understand the process. I understand the conflict here, because we don't want projects to stagnate and just go downhill without any chance for refurbishment. But then we also don't want to make a permanent entitlement, as it were. So I just wanted to express that concern and see what your thoughts are. And is there, how do we thread this needle?
It's it requires some balancing, but as you already kind of alluded to, to tell a lessee that you won't be able to extend unless you're a successful bidder at auction doesn't let them invest in the property as the lease comes up for termination. So that's not ideal, and probably having the same lessee on site for 100+ years is not ideal, but we think this measure, straddles those two competing interests.
And does it appropriately adjust rents and other considerations like that, terms? Are those modified appropriately, or are they just kind of carried on from the original lease?
So the rents will be reopened as scheduled in the lease and the extension. So and those are all done at market rates. It will be ground lease rent only and not improvements, and that's one of the other issues. Is typically at the end of the lease, the state will own the improvements, but when these extensions occur, the state just continues to get ground rent. However, I will say that we have had leases return, in some cases, the improvements are not in very good condition, and they sometimes added zero value to the ground lease rent, and sometimes they can actually cause a negative impact to the ground rent.
Understood. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
So having said that, I think it'll work better having this measure than with some of your recommendations as well. Any more discussions on this measure, SB 257? Okay. Thanks, folks. If you'll be around, just in case we need you. Chair calls on then testifying for Brookfield Properties Retail, Daniel Kea, or a representative. Aloha. Good to see you.
Hello, Chair, and committee members. Thank you for allowing me to provide testimony in support of Senate Bill 257. I do provide written testimony. I just wanted to make comments as far as, so principally, I'm the general manager for Principal Hill Plaza in Hilo. We are the only indoor shopping center on the Bay Island. Because of that, it makes us kind of the prime venue for community events, gatherings, and prior to the pandemic, we were hosting about anywhere from 50 to 100 different events. We support like community bands, a lot of the school bands do their performances at our mall, as well as our Kapuna groups, both the Hilo and Kapuna groups do regular monthly performances in our mall. So we're really a community-based mall, and this would allow us to keep investing in the mall. We do our best to reinvest in the mall to make it a premier place for gathering. I mean, it's kind of our Brookfield's tradition as far as running malls. So this bill would allow us to get a longer lease to allow us to redo our financing as far as financing these improvements. As stated by DLNR, I mean, without a longer term lease, it does become hard for us to invest and then recoup those investments if we don't have a longer lease. As far as some of the concerns, I guess, against the timeliness of it, my only comment on that is there are a lot of other tenants in the Hilo area that this affects greatly, and a lot of their leases are expiring in the next year, 1 to 3 years. And so waiting on it and not doing this, approving this bill would make it very difficult for those, and a lot of them would lose their family businesses. A lot of them are auto shops, small mom and pops, as well as the veterinary clinics and stuff. So there is a priority to try to get this passed to help those businesses as well as my own. Other than that, we stand on the rest of our written testimony. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Daniel, I know we're all going through this COVID-19 issue regarding employment. How has the mall done up to now? You have, how many of the stores in the mall, can I ask, if they are still closed shop?
I don't have anybody still closed from the original closure except for the theater. The theater is kind of a corporate decision where they are not planning to open until March or April, I was told.
So
but I think that has to do with the movie studios and all that.
So there's quite a
I have had some closures though. A couple of national tenants just closed very recently. But other than that, Brookfield's done a lot to try to help keep all of our tenants in place. We've either done abatements or deferrals on rent and stuff to really help out, especially the mom and pop guys. We've really just abated a lot of the time that we were closed.
So there's quite a few of employees still employed then throughout the mall?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. As far as employment, I believe the number is we probably still employ probably about just short of 1,000 people in Hilo area, between all the department stores, all the other smaller stores. And we're also employing a bunch of, we're having pop-ups now that kind of just take over like an RMU just for the weekends. Because a lot of our crafters and stuff are really hurt because we don't have our normal crafters and stuff. So they've been doing like weekends, they would open up, and so their social media guys would come in and visit them on those particular weekends.
Okay, thank you. And members, I just want to add to coming from the Big Island and East Hawaii, if it weren't for the mall, pretty much I think the Hilo would have been, the east side would have been still under the highest unemployment. And so we're very pleased. But the concern that the chair has, along with many in the industry on East Hawaii, is that those leases that are still short-term right now, pretty much going out. Some mom and pops that I know in the industrial area has closed because of the not being guaranteed an extension. So there's a desperate need, at least because this bill has been around for some time now. Thank you very much. Questions, members? Okay, hearing none, then I'll call upon, let's see, Office of Hawaiian Affairs, Sterling Wong or representative.
Aloha, Chair, members of the committee, Sterling Wong, Chief
Aloha,
Advocate
good
for the
to see
Office
you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Sterling Wong, Chief Advocate for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. We submitted written testimony on behalf of the OHA administration in opposition to this bill. In summary, OHA's opposition to this measure centers on the bill's potential impacts to the ceded lands corpus, for which our beneficiaries have unrelinquished claims. The lease extension provisions of this bill could result in ceded lands being leased for more than a century. This would be tantamount to the sale of our ancestral lands without resolving our people's claims first. We expressed additional concerns as well as potential amendments in our written testimony. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify and be available for questions.
Okay.
Mahalo nui.
Thank you, Sterling. Mahalo. Any questions of OHA? We'll proceed then to the next testifier is Hialani Sonoda Pale, testifying for Kalahui, Hawai'i, Komike Kalai Ana. In opposition and testifies, would like to speak. Hialani, are you here? If not, let me know if, oh, you are here. Aloha.
So sorry. Just trying to learn this new system. So sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, give me 1 minute. I apologize. Okay, here we go. So, okay. So aloha Chair Inouye, Vice Chair Keith Agaron, and members of the committee. Kalahui Hawaii Kumike Kalai Aina submits testimony in strong opposition to Senate Bill 257, authorizing the BLNR to extend certain leases of public lands for commercial, industrial, resort, or government use. The majority of the lands held by the state of Hawaii are ceded lands or Hawaiian Kingdom Crown and government lands. And there's really a dispute about the transfer of these lands, but in terms of their purpose, just kind of summarizing my testimony that was submitted, as the state was, as a condition of statehood, these lands, the Hawaiian Kingdom and Crown lands, were transferred to the state of Hawaii to be held as a public trust for 5 purposes, including the betterment of the conditions of Native Hawaiians as defined in the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act 1920. The Admissions Act further states that any other object beside the 5 purposes shall constitute a breach of the trust for which suit may be brought by the United States against the state of Hawaii. The Kalahui Hawaii Komike Kalai Aina has concerns over the use of these lands outside of the 5 purposes set out in the Hawaii State Constitution and the Admissions Act, and actions that could be interpreted as land grabbing, especially when the claims of the Kanaka Maoli people to 1.8 million acres of these lands and our sovereignty over them have yet to be settled. The Apology Bill, aka the U.S. Public Law 103-150, passed by Congress and signed by President Clinton in 1993, recognized that the indigenous Hawaiian people never relinquished their claims to their inherent sovereignty as a people over our national lands, the United States, and that the Republic of Hawaii also ceded 1.8 million acres of Crown and government lands and public lands of the Kingdom of Hawaii without the consent or compensation to the Native Hawaiian people of Hawaii or their sovereign government. Allowing non-elected members of a government board to extend leases beyond the maximum 65 years would set up leases as lessees as pseudo owners of public lands and set a bad precedents. Also, this measure does not provide for any process where public input can be provided on past, current, and future land stewardship. Were these leases to go through a public process, others would have the opportunity to bid on the property, public input would be allowed, and in some cases, environmental assessments taken into account on how well they have cared for the public land.
Yeah,
they were invested with.
Here, Lonnie.
So,
yeah,
yes.
We got your testimony. Your time is up as of now beyond the 2 minutes. So we appreciate, we do have in writing your testimony as well. So mahalo.
Can
Okay. Thank
Can
you.
I say something else? Because I'm just kind of shocked that there's 40-year lease extensions. I mean, that's shocking to me. And the COVID should not be used as an excuse to diminish public input.
I understand, but we do have to go, and because we have to leave this, committee adjournment is short term, so, okay, but we appreciate, and members have their testimony as well. Chair is going to continue on to an opposition received by the Kupuna for the Mo'opuna in opposition, in support of SB 257, James McCauley as an individual. There's an opposition from Tony Eaton, and there's comments received on SB 257 from Cheryl Burkhart. Members, let's proceed then to the next item on the agenda, SB 204, and this is relating to aquatic resources. It authorizes the Department of Land and Natural Resources to use in lieu fee mitigation to restore, create, enhance, or preserve aquatic habitats or resources as compensatory mitigation. We have just two testifiers today. One has decided he'd like to testify on behalf of DLNR. We're happy to have Brian again, still with us. Thank you.
Aloha, Chair. We stand on our written testimony and support available for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We do have another individual, Eric Hansen, sends communication in support. Members, any questions of DLNR? Okay. Hearing none, then we'll proceed with the last item on the agenda, and I think we will make our time schedule. We're on SB 178 relating to driving on beaches. And this establishes a 2-year beach protection pilot program under which no vehicles are authorized to drive on the beach in Polihali State Park or on any beach in Kekaha, Kauai, under the jurisdiction of DLNR without a permit. And it requires DLNR to work with the County of Kauai, on the feasibility of establishing a similar pilot program for the beach at Kekaha Beach Park under the jurisdiction of the county. And it requires a report to the legislature and its repeal on June 30th, 2023. And for members, before we continue, I do want to add that there already is a statute under DLNR, and Pulihali Beach is part of the state park and under the jurisdiction of DLNR, Division of State Parks. And all of the state park rules prohibits driving on beaches in all state parks statewide. So in other words, we're already in violation, just to share with you as well. And so we'll proceed then for our information. The committee has received support of 13 people or organizations. We have opposition to this measure, 347, and we have comments received, 7. So Chair at this time is going to call on those who has decided to be able to speak to the committee, and which is just about 9. And so at this time, DLNR.
Good afternoon, Chair Noe, members. Alan Carpenter, Assistant Administrator for State Parks. The department stands on its testimony, offering comments, and is available for questions. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you. And members, if there are any questions in between DLNR, Alan, you're going to be around until the end of the hearing in case there's any questions. All right.
I got kicked off, but hopefully I'll stay in.
Thank you, thank you. Testifying for County of Kauai Managing Director, I'm sorry, Chairs, let's see, I erred on this one because he's not speaking. But the next speaker in opposition is Elliot Lucas. And Elliot, are you there? Elliot Lucas?
Senator Noe, I don't see an Elliot Lucas in the Zoom call.
Okay, then the chair will continue on Those that are speaking in opposition is a gentleman by the name of Jonathan.
Hi, Senator. I hate to interrupt again, but there is no Jonathan in the Zoom call at this time.
Okay, thank you. Another who's planning on speaking is Mana Vayakea in opposition. Okay, seeing none, then the chair will call upon opposition, Peliki Flores.
Hi, Senator. You can actually just go ahead and skip right to Corey Keone Riley.
Okay, is Corey Keone available? Okay, we'll move on to Taryn Dizon.
Aloha Committee. Hello?
Oh, sorry, Senator Corey Keone Riley was next. Sorry.
I'm here.
Okay, is Corey here? Aloha, Corey.
Hi, can you guys hear me and see me?
We certainly can. Proceed.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and the ability to speak on this. I'll try to keep as brief as possible. There's a large amount of community interest in this measure, specifically just because there's been such a massive luxury to drive on the beaches. And I've just learned now, as you're saying, Polahale Pina State Park is actually in violation under the park itself. I grew up on Kauai, and we've all had this massive luxury of being able to access fishing, surfing, or watching the sunsets on the west side. A lot of these areas are only accessible by trucks. So if you're not familiar specifically with the region, it goes Kekaha and then a blocked off military base, and then Polahale. A lot of the surfing to get to the military base, you have to walk in, is only accessible by a long drive on sand using a four-wheel drive truck. So there's a problem there because all of the access points have private businesses. So there's GMO testing sites, there's a shrimp farm, there's the Kekaha dump, there's a racetrack, and all of those places do have security guards. And so there is going to be issues with people going to a very, very popular surfing region. It's not going to go well with the community, a large part of the community, and there's a lot of interest in it, and a lot of people talking about it. So I just wanted to bring that up, that specifically for Kekaha, there isn't an option to access the military base without having a four-wheel drive vehicle. There just simply isn't at this current time. So we've noticed I used to be able to drive into the military base when I was a child with my family, and even that access, not because of the state, because of 9/11, that whole region has been taken. So the west side is becoming smaller and smaller to the community, and I think a lot of people are alarmed at any type of regulation in the region. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I wanted to thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Chair, let's see, Corey, the chair had called on Taryn Dizon.
Hi.
Aloha.
Committee Chair, Senator Inouye, Committee Vice Chair Gilbert, and Senate members. My name is Taryn Dizon, and I was born and raised on the west side of Kauai. The objective of this program may be positive, but I believe there will be no way to effectively manage this new rule. The language in the bill also excludes the use of seasonal boat ramp access via the identified forestry recreational area. Obtaining a camping permit is already impossible due to it's super impossible to already get camping permits for Miloli'i, and in all of that area in general. In a statement printed in the Garden Island Tuesday, December 8th, Representative Morikawa identified key factors of the closure of Polahale was management and enforcement problems that needed to be addressed. To reach our end goal of enhanced beach access, we must focus and strengthen our systems and take the necessary steps to support existing rules. If enforcement was one of the main root causes of how we got here, how will we enforce these new permits?
Enhancing our system is critical, but protecting our access to Nepali coast is imperative to perpetuate and continue this, the generational knowledge of Ike Aina, learning from the land. People may say Puho'ike or Kikiola boat harbors are one of the scariest harbors to navigate in the state, but only a few have the knowledge to navigate from Polehale, which makes its cultural practice sacred and scarce. Land has no need for man, but man needs the land and works it for its livelihood. We, the stewards of the land, depend on this access that feeds and sustains us. Due to the winter swells, access to the Nepali coast is extremely limited to a few months out of the year. We own small vessels to execute our lessons, which make it impossible to use Kikiola Boat Harbor. Even if we have small vessels, we pay the same ramp and registration fees. So our vessels utilize the ramp access via Polehale. Being avid users of the Nepali coast, we take advantage of the summer recreational access. Obtaining permits are
Taryn,
Yes.
Taryn, okay, your time is up, and we have several more, and we have a time constraint. We do have your testimony as well, and it can be viewed.
Senator Chair, appreciate it.
All right, Jose Borja, in opposition, also asked to speak. Is Jose?
Hi, Senator. There is no Jose Borja at this time.
Okay, thank you. What about Blise Lester? And Blise, an individual, is in support.
Hi, yes, that's me.
And I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
It's okay, it's Bliss, but that's fine. All right, do I just start?
Yeah, proceed, please.
Sorry.
Please proceed.
Okay, so I am in support of this bill, and I have to say, firstly, I understand the feelings of disbelief and condemnation of the bill by the general public. As a child, I grew up on Polehale, and I know many others have as well. I always remember seeing cars driving on the sand. It was common practice. But then I grew up, I had my own children. I learned a little bit more about the world and realized all the detrimental effects that may have had. Not just on the environment, place I love as well. When you know better, you do better, and we have not been doing better. It is our generation's responsibility to show our children a better way. Since when is destroying our island with irresponsible practices a right? Since when does disregarding the greater good an impediment to your practices? I grew up and knew that reckless actions were a stain on my character as a person. This is our generation's stain. Polehale is a sacred place. I think we've forgotten that throughout the years, and it is an area rich with history and people. It's not just a pretty beach. As a lineal descendant, I have seen a lot of what goes on at Polehale, and I also had the opportunity to see what Polehale looked like when it was closed. I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed that no one taught us what was right. I was embarrassed that no one spoke up and said, make this place better for the next generation. I've seen the beauty and respect that we can have for sacred areas. Take a swing by Ha'ena. Look at how beautiful it is. Look at how people respect that place. No one is going to respect you unless you respect yourself. When we do not show others what responsible practice is, it gives strangers to the area permission to be disrespectful. I could be spiteful and just say, good for you guys, but then I'm hopeful that something amazing will come of this.
Okay, Bliss, thank you for your testimony. We have this, and we appreciate you taking the time to speak as well. And we continue, members, the last to testify to the committees, Kelsey Hisapine, or Hisapine? Kelsey. Kelsey?
I usually do this kind of hello?
Aloha.
Aloha. I usually do this kind of talks, and my thing that I wrote wasn't too bad, but I just here for give my info. I agree with the closing down of the beaches.
Okay,
And, but
Kelsey,
I also oppose it.
Kelsey,
Yeah.
just for you, for the information we received from you, you're in support. So are you in?
Yeah, I'm in support, but I see both sides. I'm more just for putting my information right now and maybe give one little thing that might work out. But I grew up in Kekaha, and for my whole life I've been living Kekaha, and I've been driving on the beaches. My family go to the beaches, and we drive on the beach and stuff. But over the past 2 years, I seen a increase on the vehicles, and like ever since technology got a bit more available, people have been abusing the beach and stuff. And we really love this beach, and also at Polihale, I seen that. So I agree with the bill, but at the same time, I think if we're gonna do this, I think we need one solution, like an access road to the Interest Beach, or more specifically I'm talking about, because you gotta walk like 2 miles, if not from the parking spot, to get onto the beach. So I think if you guys, maybe we build an access road, close it down to 2 years, and build an access road during the time of the 2 years. So by the end of the 2 years, we have something to access the beach at least, because right now we're just looking at, we're gonna close it down for 2 years. And also at Polihale, I think within the 2 years, maybe you guys should leave a boat ramp launching area for the small boats to launch within the 2 years, so the small fishermen still can go and launch their boats off of over there. But yeah, I agree with closing down the beach for 2 years and letting Mother Nature take a rest and trying to revive the land. That's all.
Okay, you have a few minutes, so let me ask though, this measure also calls for a permit, so it's not necessarily correct that it's going to be closed down. The bill calls for a permit process, and so that's what this measure is for a 2-year pilot. And so there's, so there's a fee that will be applied that you all can do as well under the jurisdiction of DLNR. There's going to be a fee collection, and there's going to be contribution, and the fees will be going into a special fund, so the DLNR will be able in the future, when funds increase, that to make some improvements. And okay, just to let you know.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, that's nice. That's good, but I just wanted to put in my input on maybe a better solution than a permit, maybe an access road. And I think the base and county and state can give money to do it, because Kekaha no more that much land, no more that much beach. Compared to the other side, I'm pretty sure we can give money to the Kekaha community to build this road. And we the ones to take care of the land, because we live here, we've been living here the whole time. And I don't know, it's my input.
Understanding, Kelsey. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mahalo.
Okay, members, any questions for DLNR while they're around? Otherwise, the chair, there's 300 testifiers that we received, testimonies anyway, and you did hear the count from the chair. It's over 300, and it's available online as well. And so the chair at this time, because we'd like to have an opportunity to discuss this measure. Members, any discussions on this particular measure, SB 178, before we go into recess for decision making? Okay, chair calls for a short recess to go into decision making, the Committee on Water and Land. Good afternoon. The Committee on Water and Land is back from a recess. So the decision of the chair members is that we defer decision-making on, 1 o'clock on Wednesday, on February 3rd in room 229. And for those that are in Zoom land as well, just to reiterate that the hearing has been closed. We will be making decisions on this measure next Wednesday, February 3rd, again at 1 p.m. Thank you, members. We will adjourn the Committee on Water, Land.